Morning, everyone. Well, I love polls. And here is City News reporting most abiding by COVID-19 rules. Back fines, arrests of those who aren't. Okay. And I love polls because they can be, you can get them to say anything. And I mean, like when you have questions phrased in certain ways and all sorts of stuff, and they do a lot to, make polls as neutral as possible. They try and, ask non-leading questions and whatever. But at the same time, you can still make those supposedly non-biased polls say pretty much whatever you want. And so anyway, and I mean, like by reporting 90% have this feeling while 10% don't, or reporting 10% have this feeling while 90% don't, right? Like it all depends on how you turn it, right? It depends on how you spin it in the press. And I mean, Our approval ratings in Canada are kind of weird anyway. Like you can be in a really good position with like a 25% or 29% approval rating, especially in a provincial match, right? Like when they're spinning the NDP surging at 29%, right? Like 70% of people don't agree, right? Like, so you can make it say anything you want. Doesn't matter, right? Like you can it's numbers, right? People don't even understand numbers. They're not even trying. Okay, that's the point. So anyway, here's a poll, and it's just funny. Okay, most Canadians are doing what they're told to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and would support harsher measures to punish those who aren't. A new poll suggests. Of the 1,590 adults surveyed between March 27th and 29th, the vast majority said they were practicing social distancing, 97%. Keeping at least 2 meters apart from others, 95%. Washing their hands more frequently than usual, 95%. Going out only for necessities, 94%. And coughing or sneezing into their elbows, 92%. Did you guys see Joe Biden cough into his hand and get told off by the reporter? And then he said, "Oh, I'm in my house, don't worry about it." It was cringeworthy just because the whole thing was cringeworthy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Back to this. As well, 86% said they've asked family and friends to participate or to practice social distancing. However, 15% said they've witnessed or they've visited friends or family. So 86% say they've asked them to practice it, while 15% say, so like that adds up to 101. Okay, if you're paying attention. Okay, fully 64% say they've personally witnessed people not respecting measures implemented to curb the spread of the deadly virus. Okay. When you've got this high compliance rate in the sample size, right? That's supposed to be a sampling of the wider population. But 64% of the people are saying, yeah, but those people are not doing it, right? So it's funny how judgmental people become, and it's very easy to divide people. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. You're doing it right by staying home, but they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Meanwhile, like you have no idea why your neighbor could be out, right? Like, oh, he's not an essential service, blah, blah, blah. Who knows, right? Who knows? But still, I just think it's really, really funny when you've got these really high percentages for compliance, and then the really high percentage who say they've seen people, right? Can you imagine if we had a snitch society like in communist Russia or Nazi Germany, right? Like, see something, say something. If your neighbor's a bad person, tell us and we'll make sure the law gets them. If your neighbor's non-essential and he's out in his yard, you let us know. We're going to send the bylaw officer by, right? And he'll slowly drive by, giving you the eyes. A little bit of power goes a long way for some people, right? It's really interesting. Anyway, back to this. A whopping 92% they'd agree if governments authorized police to fine such people, as some jurisdictions have begun doing. 82% would agree to police arresting those who disrespected the measures. Yikes. That's 77%. And 77% said they'd agree to a complete quarantine of an entire city if necessary, allowing no one to enter or leave except for essential services. What's essential then? Bread trucks? Are bread trucks essential? Gas trucks? Fuel trucks? What's essential when you shut down an entire city? Who decides what's essential? Doug Ford? I mean, it's really, right? Slippery slope, guys. Slippery slope. And here we are sliding down the slippery slope. March 20th. And a lot of my video yesterday was talking about how there's travel bans in effect in Ontario. And I believe that to be true. Here's the report from CBC News, Toronto. Individuals, businesses that defy emergency orders could be fined, said OPP. This is March 20th. Okay, so this is 11 days ago. Okay, people and businesses found breaking the new social distancing rules will be fined Ontario Provincial Police said Friday. Individuals could be fined up to $1,000, while corporations could face fines of up to $500,000, OPP said in a news release. City, provincial, and federal governments have been implementing measures such as travel restrictions, social distancing protocols, and business closures to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. But while the majority of people and businesses have been observing the social distancing protocols, officials say there are others who continue to ignore them. Quote, although voluntary compliance is always preferred, under the Emergency Management Civil Protections Act, EMCPA, there are consequences for individuals and businesses that choose to defy the act when it's in force, OPP said. Under emergency legislation declared this week, all gatherings of 50 people, and that's now down to 5. It's 5 now. People or more are prohibited, and a range of businesses and organizations are not allowed to open in Ontario, including daycares, concert venues, libraries, indoor rec programs, private schools, movie theaters, as well as bars and restaurants, except those that provide drive-through, delivery, or takeout options. All organized public events over 50 people are also prohibited, 5 people now again, including parades, events, community services. Within places of worship, the order remains in place until March 31st, 2020. That's today, but could be extended. It was extended to the 13th, the last I read this morning. Isn't that incredible? Here's 17 hours ago, 680 News is reporting City of Toronto officials to provide update on coronavirus response plan. Mayor Tory says time is up for people who continue to ignore social distancing directives at City Park. City says won't hesitate to issue fines between $700 and $5,000. Here is a Gatineau house party in Quebec that got a $1,000 fine for social distancing breach. So this is happening. Again, I say this is happening in Canada, right? This is March 26th. This one happened. So a few days ago, 5 days ago. I'm not going to read this. I will. Okay, sure. Police in Gatineau issued what they say is their first ticket since the new powers were issued to Quebec police forces to break up groups not respecting social distancing rules. The SPVG said police officers responded to a noise complaint in an apartment block in the Hull area at 12:45 a.m. Thursday. Officers found several people inside the apartment at the center of the complaint. Gatherings of more than 2 people have been banned in Quebec since March 23rd, part of the government's effort to prevent further community transmission of the novel coronavirus. The only exemptions are for those living in the same household. Officers said 2 of the 5 people inside the Gatineau apartment did not live there. After initially trying an approach based on information and awareness, police said members of the house party were uncooperative. At that point, officers issued the tenants of the apartment a $1,000 ticket for contravening the Public Health Act. In addition, the tenants were issued an additional ticket of $200 plus an administrative cost for the noise complaint that had first drawn the officers to the building. Ouch. So this is not Ontario, and Ontario has not, to my knowledge, banned gatherings of 2 or more. From what I read and understand, currently it's 5 or more are banned right now, and you're exempt if you're members of the same household, so you can get together with your 5 children. And it says, of course, if you have larger families like 6 or 7 children, and I know people like that, so that's exempt as well. But interesting, right? So very, very interesting stuff happening with regards to travel bans and enforcement and fines, and the tone change from earlier in the week to now is really notable, right? It's very different than it was before. It was like, oh, this is about health, go home and be with your kids, and now it's like, if you don't comply, we're going to fine you $1,000. What, you just lost your job because the economy shut down? Here's another $1,000 for talking back. Like, I don't know. Seems like that loving, caring Canada I knew in the 90s, right? Okay, here's moving on to Theresa Tam. Now, here's a prepper for this. Here's the no masks curve for COVID growth, and here's the masks, right? It's got Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, right? Okay, they've got shops open, apparently. Things are working. I know Taiwan has shops open, and I know that Japan has shops and schools open, and Taiwan has schools open. So isn't that interesting, right? Like just that little graph there. Okay, and here is Theresa Tam, and this is Rachel Gilmore, and she is a web journalist, CTV News producer, CTV Power Play. Okay, she says, why is Canada telling people not to wear masks? Dr. Theresa Tam says to protect healthcare workers and prioritize supply. Current scientific evidence says putting a mask on an asymptomatic, uninfected person is not beneficial. I'm not sure that's true, but here she is saying, here are the downfalls of wearing a mask. Here you go.
What we worry about is actually the potential negative aspects of wearing masks where people are not protecting their eyes or other aspects of where the virus could enter your body, and that gives you a full sense of confidence. But also, it increases the touching of your face. If you think about it, if you got a mask around your face, sometimes you can't help it because you're just touching parts of your face. The other thing is the outside of the mask could be contaminated as well. So the key is hand washing, absolutely, for sure. There's two separate reasons.
And there's more to that. Obviously, it's a 1.5-minute clip, but I wanted to focus on the negative side of wearing masks. I think it's interesting. Again, when you look at just the curve and what's going on there. Sorry, that's not great to look at there. Maybe this is better. Yeah. When you just look at that, I mean, that's just numbers. And why tell people the opposite? Is it to maintain supply? If it's to maintain supply, why did Canada send 16,000 tons of medical supplies in early February when this had already been declared an international emergency? I mean, it just seems irresponsible. And these are the same people who said the danger to Canadians is low, right? Danger to Canadians is low up until March 7th. Danger to Canadians is low. And then on the 11th, we're going to close the economy. This is going to get worse before it gets better. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. Just like this advice doesn't add up, right? Oh, don't do that thing that it looks like is working pretty well. Let's just not do that. Let's ignore that and go with continuing to land flights from China. Oh, look at that. Right? It just doesn't make any sense to me, right? Here's some changes to the look of the reporting tool in Ontario. On the left is how it looked on March 29th, and on the right, March 30th, and I'll show you today. They haven't updated it. It's still 4 o'clock on the 29th of March. So it's like we're 2 days past that, and they haven't updated it. That's weird. Why would they do that? Why? I don't have an answer. I just have questions. This isn't my work, by the way. This is somebody else's work. This is a tweet here. This is Dr. Jennifer Kwan. She says changes to the Ontario Ministry of Health dashboard no longer reporting pending and negative cases. Testing backlog now unknown. So we don't know why. There's 40,000 tests. We're gonna have to go through those, right? Why? Also, was the data always only up to 4 p.m. the next day before? No, it used to be updated twice daily. It was the 10:30 a.m. and then the 5:30 p.m. right? So this is a step backwards for Doug Ford's information and dashboard. Like, transparency be damned, right? Like, we're gonna make it as muddy as possible. 1706-431. What does it say here? Yeah, 1706-431. And this is before 10:30 on Tuesday morning on the 31st. So I'm just gonna update, see if there's any updated news, anything from yesterday. I don't think there will be, but 29th. Nope. 1706-431. But I mean, I don't have a good explanation for this. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do this? Why would you take your data that gave a meaningful output to people and remove it in favor of flashy, maybe more flashy numbers, but less information across the board? I mean, I've got my theories as to why they would do that, but speculate in the comments. Let's hear your craziest theories. I've got my theories as to why Miss Tam would do this as well. Give the advice she's giving in spite of just the numbers, right? Forget the rest of what scientists, the federal government likes to cite scientists a lot, but it's like somebody who's talking about something that they heard other people say that sounds good. Scientists say it's really good. Well, you guys all seem to believe it when they say it, so we'll just say it too, regardless of what's real about it. Like, which scientists are telling her that touching faces, preventing touching your mouth and nose is really the important part, and yeah, scratching your eye. So, but if you're aware enough to get a mask, if you're to follow the advice of people and get a mask, you're probably aware enough that you should maybe wear goggles or glasses, right? Like, come on, give us some credit, a little bit of credit anywhere. Say things that don't make any sense and are easily disprovable. The danger to Canadians remains low. Oh, you mean the economy? You mean the danger to closing the economy? That's what you were talking about? Well, that remains high. Sorry, we thought you meant... It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The danger to Canadians was not low, clearly, and they did nothing. This has been awfully managed, terribly managed from the beginning. Awful. Awful. Incompetence. And it's sad because people are dying. Like, this is as serious as it gets. right? Like, this is not a joke. And it's unfortunate that we've got completely incompetent people at the helm. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Wash your hands, and stay safe out there.